BBC London 94.9.
That's Eddie Nesta tonight, back with us for drive time from 5 o'clock. It's now 8:48 and MPs investigating the rate rigging scandal will today quiz Bob Diamond a day after he resigned as Chief Executive of Barclays. Members of the Commons Treasury Committee are expected to ask Mr Diamond what the Bank of England or the government knew about the bank changing the interbank interest rate. Nick Leeson was jailed after causing the collapse of Barings Bank back in 1995. He says poor regulation means banks have been able to get away with it for much too long.
In any financial institution, it's about pushing boundaries, gaining that competitive edge and making money, and that's really behind every scandal that we see evolving in any institution. And I think that's clearly happened here. And when you push the boundaries, that there have to be controls, regulations in place that put you back in line from time to time.
Well, London businessman Tony Goodwin set up a global recruitment business in the capital, and he joins us now. Tony, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, you've said that business people feel betrayed by the actions of Bob Diamond and others, of course, in the banking world. Why is that? Why do you feel betrayed?
I think the whole point about the City of London is reputation, and why it is the premier financial service centre in the world is based on trust, integrity and honesty. And, what we've got here is a clear example of somebody bending the rules beyond the point that they should be bent and being overly competitive and utilising their position to take unfair advantage. And that's where, I got annoyed enough to use the word betrayed, because they are representing the UK, business worldwide, and businessmen and entrepreneurs worldwide. And, it's not acceptable to do what they've done.
I mean, we're being seen as laughingstock around the world. Are you worried that your business is now going to suffer?
I don't think we will be seen as laughingstock around the world. We have a tremendous reputation in the UK for all the qualities I've just described. And I do feel that it's also a small percentage, a small minority of the banking fraternity. The retail banks are honest, hard-working, loyal and committed people. And I don't want to lump them all together. We are talking about the casino banking types. And, we had a case in Barclays Capital where, the head of that business then went on to run the whole institution, including the retail banking. And it's a classic example of why that shouldn't happen.
I mean, the key questions today seem to revolve around who knew what when and who signed off on this idea, if indeed anybody did, from either the Bank of England or the previous Labour government. Is that what you'd be intrigued to find out?
Well, absolutely. What I want to know is the truth. Come on, Bob, what is going on? We've heard since 2008 about the debacle in financial services and how, a small number of egotists and masters of the universe brought us to the brink of ruin on a global scale. How did that happen? And, it's not just about this Libor fixing and rigging situation. It's about the previous time before 2008 leading up to now. So we want answers. And, if other people are involved, and they're talking about 20 other banks involved in this, I doubt that it stops with Bob Diamond and Marcus Agius. So, I think it goes on throughout. And it's about a culture of greed. It's about a culture of doing whatever it takes to get the deal done and make money. Nothing wrong with making money. I'm a big City fan, big pro, free capital markets, lack of regulation. But if we've got into this situation, then something does need to be done, and we need to know the truth.
Thank you for joining us. Tony Goodwin there, London businessman. We've heard from Tony. We want to hear from you.
Tim Wedgwood. BBC Radio Stoke.
And coming up next, health services in Staffordshire are to be shared between the county's two biggest hospitals, UHNS in Stoke-on-Trent and the Mid Staffordshire Trust, which runs Stafford Hospital, will share staff and managers and will sit on a joint board. We'll talk about that and what it means. Also, our bank's very much in the news today, and Barclays chief executive, as we've heard earlier, Bob Diamond, stepped down with immediate effect this morning. Others have since followed.
I'm annoyed, almost angry at what's going on. Think about the man in the street who doesn't run a business and is thinking, good God, what are they doing with my money?
We'll be talking more about your money and our banks as well on the programme. Well, that was our reporter Matt Leach. The Leader of the Commons, Sir George Young, has announced that MPs will vote on Thursday on whether there should be a judge-led inquiry into banking. But how are people feeling about his resignation? Well, Tony Goodwin is from Kidsgrove, but now works in recruitment in the City of London. He welcomed the news.
What irritated me enormously yesterday was seeing in the paper that the bank were rallying round him, and that he might not stand down. So, when I heard the news this morning, I have to say I was relieved and pleased that he'd gone, because I thought for a while that he was going to manage to hang on.
What will be his legacy, do you think?
I think it's a classic case of putting a very good deal maker in charge of a corporate entity. But you don't want that kind of person running a retail bank, an institution like Barclays. So for me, his legacy is going to be how not to run a decent institution like Barclays.
Despite the fact that over many years he built it up into one of the biggest names globally?
He built up Barclays Capital, not Barclays Bank, and this is where the dichotomy appears, and you've got to separate out the two. I agree with Terry Smith, of Talit Prevon chairman, that you've got to separate the casino boys from the retail banking. For some reason, they're very much against this, and yet, as far as I'm concerned, it's inevitable. And what you've got with Bob Diamond is, someone who built up Barclays Capital, and he was very opportunistic when he took over that slug of Lehman's in 2008, and benefited from that. And the overall Barclays franchise, you could say, benefited from it, but that doesn't mean that he should be a group chief executive.
Will the public, Tony, ever be able to trust banks fully again?
It's going to be really difficult. Really difficult. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman, but quite frankly, if I'm annoyed, almost angry at what's going on, think about the man in the street who doesn't run a business and is thinking, good God, what are they doing with my money? And why are they paying them so? Why did he get £25 million last year when he didn't hit his targets? I'm not criticising necessarily, on this issue at least, the retail banking fraternity. There's a 95% of those guys are hard-working, decent, honest people. We are, however, talking about the minority, arrogant, supercilious, overpaid egotists that operate in the city, that give, as always, it's a minority that give the majority a very bad name.
Do you see there being more movement at the top?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about 20 other banks involved in this, aren't we? I mean, it seems to be culturally endemic. Therefore, he's not the only one that is culpable in this instance, I'm sure.
Will that come out, given that this is a parliamentary inquiry and not, as the Labour Party are suggesting, it should be a full public inquiry along the lines of Leveson?
I'm thinking now that if you compare this to Leveson, the fundamental nature of what went wrong in 2008 and the way that it affects everybody, just maybe we do.
Have the banks been gung-ho with our money?
No question. The investment banks have been. The investment side of their operations, the casino side of their operations, undoubtedly have been.
Tony Goodwin there from Kidsgrove, but now who works in recruitment in the City of London, with his thoughts and reaction to the resignation of Bob Diamond.